The gym can definitely be intimidating, and especially now. I texted Lauren the other day about this, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as a negative thing, but it's definitely negative.
Okay. I'm excited now.
I I go to Crunch to work out. It's a different atmosphere. There's equipment that I don't have over at the gym. I like to get on the stairs, and sometimes I go like right after some high schoolers get out of school, and there's a school really close to the gym, and I go over there, and there's like an epidemic of high school kids working out that have been programmed or have learned a lot of what they're doing in the gym based off just a bunch of TikTok stuff.
Really.
The Liver King story breaking this week in the sense of him spending $12,000 a month on steroids is insane. And if you don't know about that story, or if you don't know who the Liver King is, I'm going to pull him up here really quickly. And it's been talked at length on a lot of podcasts, but I think it's a good conversation point for us on this podcast for sure. And we'll get into The Rock and Chris Hemsworth, also their steroids and the potential of them doing steroids as well. And if you don't believe they're on steroids, then well, you're going to learn today. You're going to learn today.
Definitely are.
All right, so let's pull up the Liver. I'm going to pull up the Liver King real quick here. If you're not on the YouTube channel, then you're not going to be able to see this, but I'll explain who he is in a sense. But if you want to get a picture of who he is, if you've never seen him before, here he is. He's insanely jacked, has a really, really big beard, and he calls himself the Liver King because the liver is king, as he says. And he eats a lot of like raw organs and liver and sells supplements, and was lying about his steroid use and said because of his 9 ancestral tenets, this is the reason that he looks this way. And that story kind of broke. As far as like steroid use goes and all the stuff that's come out about him, it's kind of crazy. Like $12,000 a month, and he looks like that. It's insane.
It's way too much. So I watched one video about it, and I sort of understand why he did it. In a sense, he felt a lot of pressure because he was getting brand deals and he was becoming the face of certain products. And so he felt like he had to like keep up his physique to a certain degree because that would make the product look better. But I mean, that's just obviously blatantly lying to people.
Yeah,
about
and it's
how a product works.
I mean, he made millions of dollars, and he's selling the product in a way. And he went on a lot of podcasts, and they asked him directly, "Are you on steroids?" And he would say, "No, I'm not. It's because of I live this certain way where I eat liver and raw organs, and I sleep on a wooden bed, and I turn my Wi-Fi off at night, and I do all these things. This the reason I look this way, and I don't take steroids." And then $12,000 a month of steroid use and leaked emails from that person, in a sense that he basically planned to do this whole thing where he was buying the steroids, and this is the plan. I'm going to promote this product and do this and make this much and do this over social media. And it works for sure, but why lie about it?
Yeah. I mean, I heard that like most of his lifestyle is accurate. Like he actually does pretty much everything he says, except for the steroids thing. The steroids thing is just, and that's a huge kicker. I mean, you can't sell like you as a product and say, this is the result, and then lie about what you're doing to get that result. That's just, it's leading people astray. It's giving people a false sense of hope or even whatever they're buying that product for.
Yeah. And it's not the steroid use that's the biggest issue here, right?
No.
No one's like, oh, it's not that. You could obviously argue that maybe steroids are not healthy for you for sure, but it's the issue is the lying or the misleading of the information, and that's the problem. It's just like, why? If he didn't lie, maybe he wouldn't. If he didn't lie and do everything he did, maybe he wouldn't become as popular and he wouldn't be as successful. But still, what are you doing? It's going to come out eventually.
In my opinion, I think he's still enough of a personality, and he still has kind of this crazy story and attitude about him that I think he would be fine. Like
Yeah.
I still think he would be successful to a degree. And then, yeah, but lying about it just really, I think, and lying repeatedly. Like people were like, "Are you sure you're not on steroids?" And he's like, "Nope, not at
Yeah.
all." So
Well, you even have like the Rock, for example. It's a little bit different in his sense because I don't know if there's been a direct interview where they're like, all right, are you on steroids? And he's maybe not selling supplements specifically, but he does have his own brand on Under Armour in a sense. And it's not to take away, like, The Rock's obviously the highest paid actor in the world right now, I think. And he works very, very hard and he's a great personality as well. But should The Rock also disclose that he's using gear?
I mean, he definitely is, right? Right? I mean,
Yeah, there's a guy that was on Joe Rogan recently. He has a very popular YouTube channel called his name's Derek, and it's More Plates, More Dates. And he talks a lot about just steroid use and pharmacology and the breakdown of just different sciences of people using supplements. And
yeah.
they talked about this past week with the Break of the Liver King episode about exactly what we're talking about, Liver King, but then also the Rock. So let's pull up some pictures of the Rock here. And I think, go ahead.
He's just unbelievable. No, I was just gonna say, like, if he's not on steroids, everyone should be doing whatever he's doing.
What's my Google searches and all this stuff with The Rock is The Rock steroids, and then there's just so many appropriate pictures to represent.
I mean, he's jacked.
Yeah,
He's just
50.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing is how old he is, but how amazing he looks.
Like this one right here, you can look at the comparison, and it says natty or not. When he was, I don't know, I think on the left side here, he was probably more in his 30s, 40s, maybe, and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit younger. And then on the right side, he's just a tank at 50 years old. It's just, it's
Dude.
insane. Let's see, and then him and Black Adam as well. This is where I get some of the issue. I mean, look at this picture here.
Dude, I don't.
He's
Yeah,
part
I
of
don't know, man.
to be part of like a kid franchise and sell certain stuff and have this misinterpretation of like, oh, you can be a superhero too if you work hard. That's
Yeah,
the issue.
yeah.
But he hasn't been. It may be a little bit different with him because he's not blatantly lying about it. I guess he's just not revealing the information.
And I also don't think he's like selling like his body as a product. Like it seemed like the Liver King was selling things
Right.
with the intention of like, you could become me if you do this.
Right.
And I don't think The Rock is on that same sort of path, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then we'll go next one here. We're going to pull up Mr. Chris Hemsworth. He's got some crazy changes as well. I'm up here. Boom. Hopefully I'm pulling up stuff on the YouTube channel right now. Hopefully all of this stuff is working because it's the first time I've done screen share on this software, but
that should be fine.
If not, I apologize. And there's no pictures for you to see. And I'm just scrolling through, but at least we're talking over it. So him, as far as some of his transformation, it's insane. Some of the size he put on. I know there's a picture that I saw that I want to put on here. And some of the size is the one I want to look at his arms. In the comparison of just size difference. I think the picture on the left here, I think I saw it up there, and I don't know how true this is. Yeah, it says 2009 to 2010. I mean
yeah.
No.
Jesus, dude.
It's
here's the other half of the equation in my mind. These people, like especially Chris Hemsworth and The Rock, have so much money.
Yeah.
They have so much money, and just like any product, supplement, trainer, whatever they need, and you're more of the expert on how they would get to that level than me. But I just feel like with money and discipline, like if they did this without steroids, the amount of discipline that would take is beyond me. But I just feel like money is definitely a resource in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a resource. It's crazy. I mean, but I think arguably, and Derek talked about these guys as well. And arguably, one of the issues with Chris Hemsworth is he is actually selling. He has like an app for a fitness app, and he does sell that. Like he uses that as a thing. Like that's
Okay.
learned some lines there. And then he just recently did Disney a Disney series. It's called Limitless, and I do want to watch it and talking about different health components of it. And when you look at him, and I've watched like I've watched like the trailer of it. If you look at the size of him when he's promoting these Thor movies or doing other stuff, he just drops so much size so fast, and it's because he's just not doing all that crazy training, or maybe he's not on a cycle anymore on
Yeah.
steroids.
I mean, that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it's always just the lying part. I think if people came out and said they were on it, it wouldn't nearly be as bad as lying about it and finding out later.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, to kind of get off the topic of just like steroids in general, or the topic of those guys, and they still work very hard. It's not to bash them. It's just, they have to work hard to be what they are. Obviously, The Rock is a great personality, and Chris, they seem like good people.
Yeah.
The Liver King a little bit less than those two. But there's a lot of myths and lies that go into the fitness industry or sports performance training when it comes to what I deal with on a daily basis. And I've talked about them in the past, but I thought of some more recently as this whole debacle has come out, and I've listened to several episodes on different podcasts as far as steroids go. And it's and sometimes it can just be like the misinterpretation of information. And I was looking up some myths just to kind of jog my mind on this episode. And I read an article, and I looked up, and it said, low intensity cardio isn't necessary for weight loss. And when you read that, so again, I'll say it again because I kind of butchered that a little bit, but one of the 5 misconceptions about weight loss, it says low intensity cardio isn't necessary for weight loss. And when I read that and I look at, okay, low intensity cardio, what are they saying? Are they saying running? Are they saying walking? What is it? In my interpretation of that is you don't have to do cardio for weight loss. And that might be true, but then it goes into, well, you have to do weightlifting for weight loss. But it's like, no, it should be a combination of the two. Sometimes it can be what the person's saying, the way you interpret it could be different. And then once you interpret it that way and you apply it, it could be a problem.
Yeah, that's a weird way to word that. I feel like, I don't know why, but I just feel like they're saying you don't need cardio to lose weight, which I don't know. I'm not the expert on that. That just seems like a weird thing to promote to people.
Yeah, well, it's so like if you were to word it, I think appropriately, or more of like just like disclosing what exactly you mean is, you don't have to. I don't even know the way to word this, to be honest. What they were trying to allude to is that weightlifting is going to be more efficient in a weight loss situation, but cardio is also an assistant. So to say it's not necessary, it isn't in a sense, but you still need to do some type of, I mean, I think of low cardio and as walking too. Like that's what I think of it is, like walking is still low intensity cardio. You don't have to run on the treadmill. You don't have to go running essentially, but you still need to get out and move. So again, it's kind of just that some way, and there's tons and tons of that in the sense of like what's out there. Maybe just like reading it. Okay, well, this means this specifically. Well, no, it kind of, but not really. And that's why I kind of see some of that stuff. And then
that feels like a gray area. Like just, I don't know. That doesn't feel, especially, it seems like in the fitness, sports performance type world, there's not a lot of definitives.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it just seems like everything could work for someone. You just have to make sure that you do it the right way, or in not too much of it, right? In proportions.
Yeah. There's a lot of gray information, kind of like you said. It's okay. You're giving, you can, with the information they give you, just like that one, low intensity cardio, you can lean in this direction or that direction. It's like, well, what direction do I lean in? Which one's more efficient? And that's just kind of how it can be sometimes. And that's why we're going to go over this, and hopefully I'm going to definitively answer some of those questions specifically today. And that's kind of the part of bringing this up, not just to complain about lies or misinterpretation or these people doing steroids and lying to us, and actually give some definitive answers that are pretty simple, essentially. And then when it comes to sports performance too, there's a bunch of misinformation, I think more so for athletes, and it's because you have interpretations coming from not only parents but coaches and tradition of doing it this way, and it shouldn't be that way, or whatever it is. And I've been doing a bunch. I think I have 15 loaded up and about to go into my drafts on TikTok, a bunch of whys or what's essentially a sport should or shouldn't do or change about what they're doing. And one of the ones that I did yesterday is why softball and baseball players, and you be able to actually kind of relate to this a little bit, why softball and baseball players should stop being required to run polls. Like, did you ever like run, you know what I mean? Like
Oh
run those
yeah,
little polls?
yeah. I would run polls, especially after if you pitched a game, depending on the amount of innings, you would run one poll like per inning.
Okay.
And I guess their reasoning, and you can answer if this was accurate or not, was to break up the lactic acid that had built up from me like pitching during the game.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense, and and even like running polls in practice as a conditioning component.
Yep, we would do that too. Yeah,
it's a long-standing tradition, and there's nothing wrong with tradition. But if I were to tell you, A, it's not going to help with lactic acid buildup, like what? No, that's not a thing. B, if you're as a sport that is, I consider a power sport, so softball and baseball, you need to be explosive, you need to hit a ball, throw a ball. In that sense, you're going to get way more out of just doing actual sprints. So the breakdown that I do in the video is stop running polls because you might be potentially slowing your team down. It's like, what are we doing here? Why is this still happening? And you might be slowing your team down. And when I explain that, is like, I don't want to just say something is wrong and not give essentially not an answer, but give something that would be more appropriate or more efficient. And it's in practice, do 10 to 12 sprints, 30, 40 yards, whatever, 20, 40 yards, 50, whatever, and do them 10 to 12 of them with appropriate breaks and do them hard. And not only are you going to get more out of it in a speed component, but you're also going to get some conditioning that is more relative to your sport. Yeah. It's dumb. Stop running polls. It's dumb.
Well, I always felt like, I mean, the lactic acid thing, obviously it was over my head. So I was just like, oh, okay, sure. But every time we would run a poll, we would just be like jogging with the worst form ever, just like talking to each other. So we were getting nothing out of it. And then when they would yell at us to go faster so that we could get on to something else, we would just like pick up the pace a little bit. I felt like I was just getting nothing out of it for the most part.
Yeah, it's just a tradition that's always been done.
Yep.
It's like, why is it? It's really just, okay, cool. Let's just keep doing it. But there's enough information out there that let's change it. And I have so many of those, and that's why I'm doing some of those episodes of the series. And they're not all about like stuff you should stop doing or in that sense. But we're actually going to eventually, I'm done with, I might add a couple more to that whole thing. But when we're done with it, I'm going to have a list of them, and we're going to go through each one of them more in detail versus like a 30-second TikTok.
Yeah.
It's going to be a full episode.
I like that. That'd be cool.
It's just direct people from TikTok to the podcast to TikTok, and just back and forth, and just everyone go see everything, because I can't work anymore or I'm going to die. Yeah. And a couple of more just miscommunications or misinterpretations or lies about sports performance. One of my least favorite, and this is another video that I put out, is essentially one of the biggest red flags if you go to a sports performance facility or you go to a training facility and the coach, and this might seem like, well, why is he saying that? But then I'll explain it. If you see the coach that's all like, rah, rah, buddy, buddy, go, 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 it's a red flag. Why do you think, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Why do you think I think that's a red flag? Or do you think that's a red flag? Or if you went into a sports performance place, you'd be like, all right, if the coach is like really enthusiastic all the time and like, go, 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 what is the red flag? Or would you be like, oh, that's good?
I mean, like my initial thought would be, what's the problem? But now that you phrased it this way, now I'm analyzing it and trying to consider what might be the problem. And I think my guess, and I don't know, is that they don't actually know what they're talking about, and they're just acting like they do, and kind of just being a hype man instead of actually understanding what they're asking their kids to do.
It's exactly it. It's
Let's
cheer.
go.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, I nailed that.
I call it's cheer coaching. It's they're filling the airspace because of a lack of knowledge,
Yeah.
and it's that is their acting like they're teaching versus actually teaching. I think it's a huge problem. And the other thing as well is I coach typically, I don't know, 30 hours a week average. And
Yeah.
if I were to bring that much energy, which there's nothing wrong with energy in a coaching setting, if I would bring that much energy for 30 hours a week, I would be on the floor.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that means there's just a lack of experience as well, or a lack that it's just the truth. It's a red flag. And it seems initially like, oh, he's just enthusiastic. No, it's a lack of knowledge, and you're putting a Band-Aid on top of that lack of knowledge by bringing all this crazy energy because you don't really know what you're talking about. You wouldn't go into a Harvard class, and even though this is not sports performance, you wouldn't go into a Harvard class and the professor has a bunch of theatrics going on. No, they're teaching, they're explaining it. We're doing stuff that's efficient. We don't need the theatrics because they know what they're doing.
I think my only pushback on that point would be that I think you would need to dive into the coach and like what they believe about sports training and sports performance a little bit more. But I do think on a surface level, that does seem to be the case. Like they wouldn't actually know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, it's and that's why I argue when it comes to sports performance training, parents should watch a couple. It's insane to me that the amount of athletes that I'll have, and not that I know there's time constraints and they might be driving another kid to another section, but sit in for a session or two and actually watch the coach and make your own interpretation. And this is another thing that becomes an issue for me as well, is sometimes kids have a perceived interpretation of what they should be doing in training. And that interpretation might be, if I'm not super sore, I'm working crazy, crazy hard, then I'm not being efficient. It's like, no, it's because we have to do it this way, so we're more efficient. And then they go back and say it to the parents, and then their parents start making an interpretation of what's going on. And then it's just like, okay, no, sit in on class. And I like when parents actually watch.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in this realm, information can get so misconstrued, and then people already have their thoughts and ideas from either when they grew up or from random things that they've read throughout their life. And so it's so easy to have just a misconception of something, and then you hear a secondhand point from, you know, the student or the kid that might not have heard every single minute little thing that you're mentioning to them. And yeah, I can see where that could quickly go downhill, or how a parent can get a false idea of what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, if you look at like our parents, in the sense of they didn't have sports performance training when they were around, like that wasn't a thing. I mean, there was barely even sports performance training going on when I was a kid. I know the only one that was around here was velocity, and some people went to it and ended up failing. And then now more so, there's more access to it. So it's exactly what you're saying. The interpretation of what should be going on, or based on when I was a kid, and the fitness industry of what you see on social media. And that's another one that drives me nuts. And we'll actually, I have videos on that later, is essentially when it comes to popular sports performance pages on TikTok or Instagram, the popular sells because they're doing a bunch of maybe crazy or intense components. But for 90% of kids, the ages of kids that like between 10 and let's say 16, they're training, you just need the basics. You don't need, you can't, you're not ready for the crazy stuff, but it sells. So then they see that and like, oh, I should be doing a backflip onto a box jump with a dumbbell on my forehead. It's like, no, you need to do the basics, and it's not flashy. It's not what they see. And again, it's a misinterpretation, and it's hard to sell.
Have you ever encountered, this is a super random question, just came in my head, but like a parent that thinks that you're not qualified to coach a certain sport because you haven't like played it or like been a part of that sport?
I haven't necessarily ran into someone not saying I'm qualified, but I definitely have had parents ask essentially, which sport do you coach, or is this sport specific? Is usually the one. It's like, all right, well, are you going to do sport specific stuff? And the answer is always no. Like if I have a full soccer team come in or a full volleyball team come in, for example, and they're training, and I have that team, it's not going to be sports specific, but it's going to be more sports applicable in the sense of
Okay.
there's going to be different components that need to be done to make it more efficient training for what they do consistently. So that's the change. Now, my open classes, the main classes, it's just basic fundamental foundation.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, you're still going to do a lot of similar stuff, but there's going to be a little bit of tweaks here and there. And it can also depend on if they're in season or out of season. So
Yeah.
a lot of sports don't really go in and out of season, but for volleyball, for example, right now, they've been a little bit out of season from school. And I have a volleyball team that they're high schoolers, and they're not really in season for club yet. So we're doing more jumping right now because they're in jump technique and things along those lines. But then when they get in season and I know they're jumping more and practicing and jumping and playing games, I bring that down because it's going to be too much jumping, and then we're going to have knee and back issues. So yeah, it's sport applicable based on that. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if any like parents just, I don't know, just didn't trust you, or not didn't trust you, but just thought maybe you weren't qualified for their specific sport. Yeah.
No, I get it. I played all the sports, Cole. I'm expert in everything. I did play a lot of sports when I was a kid, though. Not that like I always played like club wise, but I don't know if besides like field hockey or lacrosse, I think every single sport I played in some way, shape, or form. Tennis, soccer, not really volleyball either, though. But yeah,
Big baseballer? You played baseball? I didn't know that.
Nah, I didn't play baseball. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
okay, I didn't play a lot of sports.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
Soccer and basketball were my big two. And then when it was winter, we would play football because we could tackle each other really hard in the snow if it was like snowy football days.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
All right, so let's transition here a little bit. So we're going to come out of some of the myths and whatnot, and we're going to go into some questions. So Cole is back to being questionnaire here.
That's right. It's always my time to shine. Shine a little brighter today, though. Here we go.
Hold on. I want to say this real quick. We're going to, and you don't even know it's coming yet. I love to surprise Cole with stuff that I think is fun. First of all,
gosh,
I was trying to convince Lauren, but we'll have to do it another time. We're definitely doing a hamburger episode. It's coming up soon. So we're going to be eating hamburgers. That's going to be one. And then we're definitely going to do a New Year's Eve episode.
Ooh,
it's going to be next week, and I'm going to have it. There's going to be so many videos, and I'm going to have it all set up, and it's going to be like you're reacting to some of this stuff, and kind of going over some of my favorite videos, and I might have you send in some of your favorite videos or stuff over the year. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. All right, your question here. Kick us off. Fine. Let's get this rolling.
You know what? Since you surprised me, someday I'm going to surprise you.
Okay.
Like a full half episode segment, and you're going to be so unprepared. Here we go. Question 1. When it comes to training for someone, I guess this really does apply to me, for someone that's not doing sports either out of college or out of high school. Like I stopped out of high school. Where would you start training?
Yeah. So I don't want to answer this question in the same way that everyone answers this question. I'm going to answer it in a different way. When it comes to getting out of college, not doing sports anymore, everyone kind of relatively knows what they need to do. Okay, I need to exercise more. I need to eat better. I need to sleep better. All that stuff is always there. But what they don't talk about is behavioral change. And it's the same thing like when you go to a doctor. A doctor's like, okay, you need to diet and exercise, kind of stuff like that. As we are coming to the end of the year next week, I wanted to update you guys on some new and upcoming concepts that are coming to the podcast in 2023, some of which you can be a part of. The first new concept kicks off next week in our New Year's episode, which is going to be the most produced episode and biggest episode of the year. What it is a game based off of polls that I'm putting on the Edge Instagram. And of those polls, there'll be simple questions like, of these 4 fries, which one would you choose? McDonald's fries, Chick-fil-A, Rally's fries, or Arby's curly fries? Then once all the polls are done, my wife Lo is going to put them on some flashcards for Cole and I to go over on the episode that we won't know the answers. And we're going to try to guess essentially which one was the most voted for and which one was the least voted for, getting a point for each time we get it correct. You can play along with this as well. This time around, we did 10 food questions. With these games, like I said, you can play along as well. And if you want to be a part of the polls, all you need to do is simply follow us on Instagram by searching Edge Sports Performance. We're also adding in new intro shoutouts by an athlete from the gym, getting them on the mic and being a part of an episode. Next week, Cam's kicking us off on the episode for the New Year's. Another thing we're adding in is Lo and I are going to be eating at new restaurants, or restaurants that we really, really enjoy, and giving detailed fun reviews once a month in one episode. Cole and I are going to be doing some cook-offs, recipe ideas, fitness challenges, and so much more. Then the last edition is once a week, we're going to be highlighting an Instagram we like or we want to support the creator, a YouTube channel, small business, or an athlete from the gym. The creative ends and concepts that can become of this podcast are endless. It's a big reason for the name Adventure to the Edge. To follow along or to be more involved with everything new and upcoming with the podcast or the gym, be sure to follow us on all social media. Links in the description are on both our YouTube channels. Yes, we have two. The training channel is simply Edge Sports Performance, and the podcast is Adventure to the Edge on YouTube. Now back to the episode. It's kind of like when you go to a doctor, they always say food, diet, and exercise and stuff like that, but the issue is more or less behavioral change. So when you get to college, you know what you need to do. And you have to be able to implement the components that what you're doing. So, for example, if you know you need to, we'll just do exercise because it's the easiest one for me to do. If you know you need to exercise more, then to do it, you have to structure it in that you need to exercise more. So you pick 2 to 3 times a week, starting off very basic, and implement those things at a specific time every single time. And those behaviors don't actually become settled into your system until you've done it for at least 6 months, is what they say based on psychology. So you have to do something for 6 months until it's like completely, this is what I'm doing.
It's a long time.
Yes.
That's a lot of discipline and commitment.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pull up. I forgot to pull this up. I'm going to pull up right now. Behavioral change. Order. I think there's 5 stages. So there's 5 stages of behavioral. Yep, and this is something in psychology, and this is how you change what you're already doing, and this is what the order that you go in. Let me make sure I get them correctly as I read them here. So the first stage is pre-contemplation. So essentially, you are thinking about exercising, but you haven't started doing it yet. You haven't even thought about exercising yet. It's just kind of like a thought in the back of your mind of, I need to be healthier in a sense.
Okay.
The second stage is contemplation. So now you're kind of thinking about, I need to exercise more. Well, what should I do? How should I go about it? Then the third stage is preparation. So in a sense, you're preparing to get a gym membership. You're preparing to start exercising. You're taking on actual information to do so. And then the fourth stage is action. So you're actually doing it, and you're involved, and you've got your scheduled time in. You're going to the gym. And the last stage is maintenance. And you don't get to that maintenance stage, that stage in which you're just like, you just do it because it's a part of who you are, until 6 months in. And that's what's not talked about enough. Everyone knows they need to exercise, but what else needs to be happening?
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of effort that I would not be good at. Behavioral change.
Yeah, it's the discipline. It's all those stuff involved for sure. That no one wants to do, and
of course not.
Why would I want to be disciplined? But yeah, that's so to answer the question. When it comes to training someone no longer doing sports, you just have to figure out a plan, know and respect that behavioral change is going to be a part of it. Start slow and then build your way up. You know what you got to do. You got to exercise. You got to do this. And I'm not going to get into the specifics because there's so much information you can dive into, and I might get into it a little bit later. So that's my answer for that question.
Okay, so behavioral change. So now we have, that's sort of the base, the start, right? To, I know, getting into training and stuff. So how do you think someone should start the process of getting healthier or working out more that isn't maybe ready for going 3 or 4 or 5 times a week? Like, how do they start that regimen, I guess?
Yeah, so it'd be And so I'll go in a very general sense here. So when you look at getting healthier, the big three that we talked about in a previous episode, the Trinity of Health, the big three is sleep, diet, and exercise. So the first thing you have to talk about is actually sleep, because it's the first part of your day, and organizing that for sure. So when you look at sleep, you need to not just set a alarm clock to wake you up, but one of the things you can do is you need to set a time to go to bed and optimize your sleep where you're getting 7 hours minimal. When you start doing that, you're going to start being efficient automatically. That's the first thing. And I won't go into this stuff in crazy detail. It's just like, this is what you need to do. And maybe we'll do a little more detail, and then when it comes to food, we'll do exercise next. You need to start small. When it comes to behavioral change, it's a lot easier to change stuff in stages and starting off with a smaller component. If I told you exercise wise, all I need you to do is I need you to walk 10 minutes once a week. How easy is that for you? Pretty easy.
Yeah. That's a fairly easy thing to start doing.
But if I was like, okay, now you need to go out and run 10 miles. So you need to go run 3 times a week. It's not.
No.
So you have to start off small. You have to look, okay, I'm going to get a gym membership here. That's where I'm going to go there 3 times a week, or maybe even 2. Maybe you just need to start off with 2. And you have this set time structured into that works for you, and make it happen. Go at those times. Don't make excuses every single time you go. And if you miss one, which ideally you want to kind of stay as consistent as possible, don't get down on yourself, because this is where behavioral change can be a problem. If you get down on yourself because you missed, and then it becomes a spiraling situation that you've missed the next one, that's a problem. And structure is going to be your freedom there when it comes to working out. And then when it comes to food, especially, because this is more of a disciplinary thing, and more or less of, instead of doing something, it's not doing something in the sense like what you're eating, is you need to also make minor changes. So minor changes over time. It's not, okay, I need to eat this diet. It's like, okay, Cole, you drink 2 sodas a day. Not that you do. You drink 2 sodas a day. Instead of drinking 2 a day, let's just drink 1. That's small enough. Can you do that? Oh, okay, it's reasonable. And then that's the psyche behind behavioral change, that it's small chunk situations for everything you're doing. You can't do it all at once, or you're going to be screwed. You just can't.
Yeah. And this is kind of random, but when do you think, if someone actually has no time, what would you recommend them to do, just in general, like for training or exercising? If someone legitimately works an early job, has long hours, can't get out to the gym, maybe has kids at home or something, someone they have to take care of, what would you recommend them to do?
Lock their kids up and just do a workout. Just kidding. Yeah, and this is such a common question. Like, this is like a really important question, and it's an incredibly common one. And I'll use myself as an example. So I don't have kids, but I do have a dog. So it takes up more of my time, and I work a lot of hours and relationships and things along those lines. And it's even more so for parents that have kids and what they've got to do and their jobs, and it gets crazy for sure. And one of the go-tos that I think a lot of people do is they start working out before they go to work. And then it's going to sound weird when I say this, but it actually becomes an issue unless you really can do it, because now you're taking away from your sleep, and that can be a spiral, especially if you're just starting off, because it's really easy not to wake up early. It's really easy to get off your discipline. It's really easy to go to bed late. And if you have that workout in the morning, you might skip it more often. So to schedule it in, or if you don't have time, you basically just have to find time to do something. You just have to. Like, if you have 30, let's say, for example, and I think this would be a good one. For example, you're dropping the kids off at practice or something. Instead of sitting in the car and swiping on your phone, go for a walk. Like, literally just go walk. Like that, it's still something, and you'll feel better. That just go for a walk. It's still activity. Go for a walk. Listen to a podcast. It can entertain you. Just kind of that sense. You just have to find time to do something for, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes. If that's all you got, at least 2 to 3 times a week. And then from there, maybe you'll eventually find more time by pulling something out. Prioritizing it is important.
Yeah, of course. And then as far as, okay, so say you could actually go to the gym.
Yeah.
And you're in the gym. where would you have someone start in the gym? Like, I know some people think that they need like personal trainers. Some people look up videos on the internet. Like, what would be the best, like, hey, do this. You're in the gym. Great. You've made it. Start with this.
The gym can definitely be intimidating, and especially now. I texted Lauren the other day about this, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as a negative thing, but it's definitely negative.
Okay. I'm excited now.
I go to Crunch to work out. It's a different atmosphere. There's equipment that I don't have over at the gym. I like to get on the stairs, and sometimes I go like right after some high schoolers get out of school, and there's a school really close to the gym, and I go over there, and there's like an epidemic of high school kids working out that have been programmed or have learned a lot of what they're doing in the gym based off just a bunch of TikTok stuff.
Really?
And yes, it's like what they're doing physically. It's like, okay, you definitely saw that from a TikTok, because I've seen it, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've never seen it anywhere else besides on TikTok. And then this is just, I'm going to sound so old and grumpy when I say this. The clothes that are being worn into the gym as well. Not that there's an issue with some of the stuff, but like there's kids just wearing, and this couldn't be definitely be an issue. They're wearing just Birkenstocks or Crocs in socks, and they're like,
I guess
they're squatting in them, and they're doing. It's like what. It's crazy to me, and it's like great, and it is. I know it sounds very negative, and it's a good thing they're in the gym, but it's just like, okay, some of the stuff is really bad. It's not good. It's like I saw one of my. I'm not even gonna out him because he might listen to this. But I've seen I've seen some stuff going on that
you know who you are. You know exactly who you are.
Yeah. What they were doing, I was just like, they're going to be hurting tomorrow, and that's the issue, not like what they're wearing. I know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But with you're wearing sandals and you drop a weight on your foot, that's a problem. You shouldn't have like I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's barefoot components you should be doing. I sound terrible right now, but it's just like there's an epidemic of just TikTok gym culture happening. What was the question you asked me?
Yeah,
workout
so
regimen.
Back to the original question. You walk into the gym for the first time. You're like, I'm going to do something. Where should someone start? Like, should it be like a personal trainer, things they see on TikTok, things they've heard about maybe someone doing? What would be the best just like start?
Only TikTok workouts.
Yeah, okay.
That's the start.
Got it.
Just get on TikTok and not. I would say in a very basic sense, in a general sense of what most people can do is you actually want to set up a plan before you even go in the gym. And that would be going back to structuring the times in which you're going and the days in which you're going. We'll say 3 in the beginning, 3 times a week. Perfect. Before you go in the gym, of those 3 times a week, each day, pick out 5 to 6 exercises that you feel confident and comfortable doing. And if you don't know any, I feel like most people know in a general sense, look up some programs online and implement those. And then write them down specifically. Start off with 3 sets of 10 on each movement. And then after that, 2 weeks later, do 4 sets of 10. 3, 4, 5 weeks later from that, do 4 sets of 8. And then from there, and then you just progressively change up the rep scheme, but just do the same movements over and over and over. And then once you get into that groove, then you can start doing a little bit of adaptations. Or if you feel like something that you're doing isn't working, then you can adapt it. But it doesn't need to be super complicated. Do the fundamental and foundational lifts and do them consistently. That's it. There's nothing more that really needs to be done in the beginning.
Yeah. I had a question. It's gone.
Yeah, I was ranting too long. Sorry.
No, I know. You just kept going on and on, right?
I do have another thing on this as well. If you do have and I don't think people look at personal trainers this way. If you do have the resources to hire a personal trainer, this is what you can do. And I don't think this is insulting whatsoever. Get a personal trainer, hire them, and be like, this is what I can afford. This is what I would like to do. I would like to purchase, let's say, 10 personal training sessions. And with those 10, I would like it to be more of an educational tool for you to teach me how to do this on my own. That's all you have to say. And there, you're being honest. You're being forward. You're not going to just do sessions and leave. You're like, I'm going to do 10. I can pay for 10. Would it be okay that you did teach me like essentially what I'm
Yeah.
telling you? So like if you wanted to start more in the gym, we could go like, all right, we're going to do 10 sessions together. I'm going to have you do a workout on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I'm going to teach you how to do these things better and the details of them. And now you have basically an educational tool of someone that's done it for like me. If someone came up to me, I was like, I've done this for 10 years coaching, but I've been lifting for 15 years. Now you're skipping the having to look up stuff. I think that's a good way. I don't think people look at personal trainers as the teacher to training. They look at them like, oh, they're going to just train
Do
me.
this for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that approach. I feel like I don't think a personal trainer is going to turn you down for wanting to work with them, even if it's a limited amount of time. I mean, if you think about it in general, they probably have so many people that just drop.
Well, yeah, it's turnover's high.
So, I mean, if you start with just saying, I want to do 10 sessions with you, and I'd love for you to teach me how to get to just like being able to navigate the gym and understand what I want to do training wise, I don't think they're going to have a problem with that.
No, I mean,
I like it.
And so like if I look at my clients that I have that are adults that I've had for a long period of time, it's usually the ones that are 50 plus, 40 plus. And it's because they have the ability to do it. Their kids are in college. They have the resources. But the ones that need to be educated more are probably the 20 to 30-year-olds that want to get in the gym coming out of college, but they may not have the resources to pay for it for an extended period of time, or they may not have time to do it as much if you're a parent but I think it's a very appropriate thing to do and a different way to look at personal training. Someone like just not use the trainer, ask the trainer to teach you stuff. And I've done it before. I had a couple of guys they were outfitting a garage gym, and they're like, all right, we just want to know how to optimize deadlifting and this and that and that. So when we do it on our own, we know the ins and outs of what to do and what not to do, so we stay healthy. And then that was up front forward. And then it's like, all right, well, we appreciate it. We're done. We're doing our own thing. Fine. Perfect. Send me more people. I'm just
I remembered what my question was forever ago. So a lot of people say 2, 3, or 4 times in the gym is great a week, right? What if, and most of the time they say like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like you just said, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or something like that, where there's a break. What if someone can't do like days with breaks in them? What if they only have this 3 days in a row block? Is it still worth going every single day, or is that going to really tear down your body?
There's nothing wrong with doing it back to back. In that sense, you might have to just change up what you're doing. So if you were to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting off, one of the easiest things you can do is just doing full body. So you do upper and lower. And then you just do that 3 times a week. But if you're going back to back to back, you might be a little too sore. So then you just split it up a little bit. So then you just, most movements are broken into like kind of like push pull. So pushing stuff in a sense, and then pulling, but it's pretty simple. And then lower body stuff would be more like unilateral, bilateral, and unilateral being you just like using one leg at a time versus using both legs at a time. Or it can be broken up into squatting or a hinging motion. So you just break it up a little bit. So you could do, and I know that I'm not making it too complicated. Say the first day, all you do is upper body. So you do 5 movements, upper body. The second day, you do only lower body. And then the third day, you do full body. You can mix it around that sense. And then the third day, when you're doing full body, one of the most important things is you kind of have to respect the way you feel initially starting. And just maybe the third day, you're doing full body, but it's more lighter movements. And you're kind of just like going through the movement nice and smooth is the best way to kind of break it down. There's nothing wrong with doing it 3 days in a row. You just have to change up maybe what you're doing that close together.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So we talked about working out in the morning. We've talked about sort of the ideal regimen. Is there anything else you would add to like what someone should start off with in the gym? Or do you think it's really just 5 basic exercises?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give like my full answer for this now.
Yeah.
And just basically like the full answer being, this is how you do it. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more details to it, but this is just the base of what people are looking for and what you have to do. This is how I'll do it in like a little rundown, and then we'll go to sports performance stuff next.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the first thing is you have to respect behavioral change, and you need to start off with optimizing sleep. Getting 7 hours minimal is going to be incredibly important as best you can. Go to bed early. Go to bed when you need to. Know what time you have to wake up. You know what time you have to wake up. That means you know what time you need to go to sleep to optimize 7 hours of sleep. That's the first thing. The second thing, with behavioral change and optimizing training, you need to structure it in where you're doing 2-3 days a week that fits into your schedule and a time that you can do it for 30 minutes to an hour a week, or just increase your walking. With those exercises, you pick out 5 to 6. When you go into the gym, you'd ideally want to do some style of warm up. One of the easiest warm ups you can do is get on a treadmill and walk for 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be fancy. Walk for 10 minutes on an incline. Boom, you get a little bit of movement going. Then after that, you go into your weightlifting stuff. Again, 5 to 6 movements. You pick them out based on however you want to set that up. Structure them, write them down. I think one of the best things you can do is literally write down what you're going to do. You have it on your phone, whatever. You don't have to write down which weights you're using, but just have them written down somewhere so that you can look at it or change it as you go.
Okay, and quick question. Yeah, sorry to pause.
No, you're good. Perfect. No, yeah.
Do you think free weights or machines are better to start with, or both, or does it matter?
That's perfect. So when answering this, there's always, like, you could keep asking questions just like you did.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. My answer to the question is it doesn't matter in the beginning as much as people put on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, it's in a behavioral change sense. If you don't go into a gym, if you're someone that's new to a gym, you need to do stuff that you feel confident and comfortable with. So if you go to Planet Fitness, for example, and you don't know how to do free weight components, then start off with the machines. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you'll build your confidence of being in a gym, of operating in a gym setting, and then eventually navigate to the free weights. You don't. Yeah. It's always going to be the same answer.
For sure.
Yeah. It's always going to be the same answer. It's more or less about getting started, structure out what you know you're confident, comfortable doing, and just do that for a while. And then over a period of time, you can manipulate that. Because you could ask these questions at length, and just
you could just
destroy your brain. Yeah, you could just like go nuts, and then you like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. Start there. Yeah, but it's a good question. Perfect.
All right, continue on.
And then as far as food goes,
I think food seems like a very intimidating subject to me, because the gym, it's like I could figure it out, but food, I don't even have a single idea where I would start.
Okay, perfect. So when it comes to food, and the reason it can be so intimidating is because of stuff like this diet, that diet, this supplement, all of this. Okay. So let's just pull everything away. Just toss everything you know away. If I were to give you a specific diet right now, I was like, you have to eat this, this, and this, and this. You're not going to sustain it. It's going to be way too intimidating. It doesn't work that way for the most people. If I were to tell you also that you need to log everything you eat and weigh it and do all this other stuff, it's too much of a change. It's probably not going to happen. Can some people log their food and do that consistently and know how much they consume and do it really well and diet down? Yes. But for the average person, the best way to answer this question and take away all the intimidation that's going on is to manipulate what you're already doing in a minor sense over time. So, for example, if you're eating out 5 times a week, you're probably not eating the best food for you in a caloric sense or in a weightlifting sense, or not weightlifting, but a weight loss sense or whatever you're trying to accomplish. So literally reduce it a little bit. Eat more stuff at home. That's an easy one. If you're consuming nothing but, if you're just consuming a bunch of
does that mean I can get delivery pizza?
No, that does not.
Oh, got it. Okay.
No, so it's like, if you're just eating out, eat out less. Yes, cook more. Most people just need to increase their protein intake a little bit. I know it sounds almost too easy. If you were just to, on an average day, increase your protein intake. So for example, if you wanted to, just start drinking protein shakes, or per meal, eat a little bit more protein per meal, less carbohydrates, more protein, a little bit more fats. That's an easy one. But it's just minor changes to what you're already doing are the things that are bad, or that are very calorically dense or not as efficient in getting where you are. And then keep doing that over a period of time. That's something that's realistic and sustainable. That's the answer. That's the big picture. And it's always going to be the big picture. You can throw in the more detailed stuff or the more drastic changes. And guess what? You're not going to sustain them for the most part because you're not respecting behavioral change.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Sounds like, now I'll make this really simple. Stop eating the food you know is bad. Eat better food. Got it.
Well, so, and that's a good way to put it, but then also
Definitely
a bad way to put it.
Oversimplification.
Because what is bad food? That's the other thing.
See, all right, you already losing me, but yeah.
And I don't want to lose you. It's a perfect way that a lot of people look at food. Your relationship with food it's such an integral part of everyone's life of how they have relationships with people, what you do as you get older, all of that. It's such a layered topic that what is bad food? Let's say, for example, you eat, let's say a notoriously bad food is, we'll say pizza, right? Or burgers. Let's say you eat a burger and pizza. You eat a burgers twice a week and pizza once a week. Would you want to take that out completely from someone's diet? No. What you'd want to do is reduce it by 1. If you're eating burgers twice a week and pizza, don't get rid of the burgers. Just don't eat it twice a week. Or maybe you eat a different style of burger. Instead of being an 80-20 beef that's a little bit higher fat content and a bunch of bacon on it, instead of doing that, let's get a 92.8% beef, which is a little bit less calorically dense, and do that. Or instead of eating a burger, let's eat a turkey burger, whatever it is. Okay. Those small manipulations without deprivation is going to be more efficient than just like, I don't eat pizza anymore. It's like, you know what? You're probably going to go back and eat pizza because guess what? Pizza's good. True.
Pizza is my favorite.
Good versus bad food. It's again, you're asking questions, but I've already I'm not trying to get on you. You're asking questions, but I've already given you the answer. It's not about the details. It's about essentially looking at what you're doing, the minor changes that are realistic. You see how I did that? It's like 2 burgers and a pizza.
We're back to behavioral change instead of the actual details of it.
Yeah, that's the answer that people don't look into. It's just change the way, and it gets difficult because it's like a lot of that's you gotta be disciplined, and it's like that's not fun. I don't like discipline. Let's do a couple of sports performance.
Let's do a hard end to that conversation because guess what? I could ask questions for hours on that.
Don't ask the questions. I gave you the answer. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about more specific sports performance things that are geared toward, well, your gym, your business, right? So I guess the first big one, when it comes to sports performance, why do you think kids should come to Edge? Besides the fact that it is your place.
Yeah, it's not even like, oh, I'm just trying to like pitch a sales. And I've said this at length on some of my YouTube videos and a lot of what I do. The benefit of coming to Edge in a very blanketed sense is getting the educational tools you need to train for the rest of your life. Like that's it. That's the answer. There's so much more to it besides just like, okay, speed training or I'm going to get faster, stronger, jump higher. It's more or less like, well, no. You're coming to the gym. So I teach you how to weightlift, how I teach you the components of training. You listen to this podcast and learn more about fitness. I'm just kidding. And that's it. Like there's a bigger picture to the whole equation versus just like speed, jump. It's if I can teach them to enjoy training, to use it for the rest of their life because they're going to be a happier and more successful person, and teaching them stuff like sleeping and all that kind of stuff. And that's why you come to the gym.
Yeah. I feel like that's the best reason to go to the gym. You don't want to go for another reason. You don't want to go for unhealthy reasons. And I think just, developing those healthy habits early. Yeah. And speaking of developing them early, when do you think? Yeah, I got that one. That was good. That was a good one. When do you think the best age for kids to start training would be?
You got that. We're podcasters. We have sharp and accurate segues.
Although I think we got to start not acknowledging them. You know, I think it makes it a little cliche, right? When we go, that was an incredible segue.
Every time we just pat our own backs. That was a really good segue.
Yeah.
As far as age goes, and this goes back to enjoying training, there's two stipulations that I have. Actually, I guess three. They need to be excited to train. If they're being forced to train and they're 9 or 10, bad news bears. They need to be excited to train, not forced to train. And maybe if they're not excited, instead of just signing them up for a month and throwing them in, have them watch a class or have them come in and just like try one. Like something like that would be a lot better off. And maybe they will enjoy it. They don't know that they enjoy it because they don't know what to expect. They're misinterpreting what's going to happen. And then B, typically the best age is around like 9 or 10 because the ability to focus in a class setting with other people going on and the stuff that we're doing. So that's kind of the butter range, 9 or 10, being focused, being able to be in a class setting and take instruction. That's typically the age, the best time to start a kid into training as far as like sports performance goes.
I would genuinely like to see, so 9 or 10, that's like 4th, 5th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see the difference in your class versus a school classroom setting and their focus level.
Yeah.
Because I really think they would be more focused in your class setting just because it's different. It's active. They're doing things and they might be doing things they're not used to. So they have to really focus in.
Yeah, it can really depend. And sometimes it depends. Like, for example, yesterday, I had a couple of my younger soccer athletes come in and there was a small group. A lot of kids they're just checked out and going into Christmas vacation already. So they're just like, whatever. Yeah. And there was only 4 of them. And these kids were just cranked on energy, just to the gill, just like they were before the class even started. They're like, ah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not even going to yell at them. You know what I did? I told them in the beginning, I was like, we have to do a good warm up because of what you guys are going to do today. And I'm going to get this energy out of you guys so that your parents will be much happier when you get in the car because you guys, I know you're being super annoying to your parents. And if you get a good warm up, and we're going to do some fun stuff. And you set up these 2 circles of like cones, and the circles, let's say in diameter of the circle, it's probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 feet circle. And then you set them up next to each other in like cones. And basically you just play advanced duck, duck, goose where they have to run around the circles and tag. Yeah. That was the first thing we did. And it's incredibly exhausting, especially because they're really fast and they have fun doing it. And I was like, all right, they're definitely good now. Now we can do our strength training section. They did it, I don't know, 12 to 15 times with good breaks. And they were still just like, I was like, all right, well, I'm not putting you into a strength training session because you guys cannot focus at all. And again, I didn't want to yell. And I mean, they're having fun. I was like, whatever, we'll have fun. Yeah. It's their last day before they come back in January. So then we did. And the crazy thing is, you know what a beep test is?
A what? Say that again.
A beep test?
No.
A beep test is you take a row of cones and I think it's like 65.7 feet in distance from one line to the next. So it's like 2 lines
so specific.
Back and forth.
Why?
Yeah, it's 20 meters. It's 20 meters.
Oh, okay.
It's 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's in meters. Yeah. So it's 60, let's just say 65. And I'm going to play the audio here in a second, actually. It's because you have to hear it. There's a video that I play and you have to, when it beeps, you take off from the line, go to the next line. And then when it beeps again, you take off again. And over time, the beeps get closer together. And it's really annoying to do. And they were having fun doing that as well. And I was like, holy cow. So I can only imagine kids that are like in a classroom setting because these kids were nuts in my class. All right. That was my story.
That was probably like after school too.
Yeah, it was right. It was it was definitely after school.
Wearing you out. Oh man. That sounds like a lot of effort, a lot of work.
All right. I want you to hear this audio. This thing is insane.
23 minutes.
Fitness test will start in 5 seconds. Ready.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Start level 1.
Yeah. And then it just keeps doing that. It goes, the multi-stage fitness test starts in 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And then it just keeps taking off. They were having fun doing that, and they were exhausted. They did really good, though. But you got to zap that energy out of them.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one last thing on sports performance, and then we're going to be done with this thing. We are already an hour in.
We're rolling.
Okay, this is misinterpretation of sports performance, or because it looks cool, everyone does it. And I'll explain why it's not a problem, but this is one example. And the video I'm going to show, there's a ton of money. This guy's page there's a lot of great stuff, but I can't stand, and I think it's super dumb to do tennis ball drills all the time. So I'm going to show the video here, and I'm going to explain it at the same time because a lot of people just listening. Tennis ball drills being when athletes do drills and they have to catch a tennis ball. So if you see the drill here, he's going around circles, he tosses a tennis ball, he has to go catch it. And then there's so many of these, and it's becoming a really popular way of doing training. So toss the ball, react, get it. The issue with this is watch as if you're always training in this style and having to catch the ball, even in this picture here, do you see this picture here, how he's planted with his foot? Yeah. It's a huge problem to always do training like this. And people just perceive that's how you should always do training. That's a problem for me. Because is
it because of the mechanics that they're running with? Okay.
The running's fine, but this part, that wasn't bad for him. With younger kids, you get into a big issue of that catching style. And it's so funny. Some of my athletes like these videos. Now they see one over there. And then I'm going to show, but again, and I don't roast him because I really like a lot of his stuff, but what I want to show is, so those things, maybe not so great. And there's components about them that are not so great, but here's some really good stuff. Or here we go. Let's go with this one as well. Here's another one. It's like, it's just unnecessary. This is unnecessary. There's no I get what he's trying to get across, but it's to just do something different on social media to separate him, to grow his page. Like, that's what that stuff is. But here's some really good stuff. This insanely good video of with the thing on his leg here of showing lines of force. And he's 100% correct on the stuff that he's explaining. It's a great visual, great explanation. And then he does another video here of explaining acceleration phase in the sense of how the foot should react to going there, and then top end speed phase, how the foot is going in a cyclic motion, and putting that little apparatus on those great. So to kind of wrap up my thought process on this is how, as someone that is not in the industry or a coach, separate the good from the bad, because there's a lot of good stuff there, but arguably the tennis ball thing is good to a certain degree.
Yeah. But
then there's problems with it as well. And you can do that all the way across the spectrum and board when it comes to sports performance and fitness, is weeding out the good versus the bad. It can be frustrating for people, for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being a parent trying to just cipher through all of this information and just dig through and find what's the best,
Yeah. I mean, for parents, for kids.
Sorry, that was Siri. Now you go.
What just happened?
My watch just went
off. No, it's okay. I was trying to play a media thing here, and it's not working. Dang it. Okay. Yeah, it can be difficult for parents or anyone. I mean, just in general, when it comes to weeding through the good from the bad, who's on steroids, who's not on steroids, what sports performance to trust, should I eat liver, should I not eat liver, whatever it is. And it can be difficult. And that's why you have to have conversations with other people or listen to this podcast to get the appropriate information. Or maybe you don't trust me either, and it doesn't, and that's not it. Because
then none of this matters.
Then none of it. Does life matter? I'm just kidding.
Go out today and eat a liver. All right. That's our.
Oh, well, there is I mean, our liver is actually kind of, I don't know, but then eating raw, I don't know. That's it. All right. We're out. That's it. We're going to, yep. Bye.
See y'all later.